Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the city employee at the back of the room. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to let council know your opinion without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting to order November 4th, 2024. Make everybody mark present. Yes?
Yes, all
Everybody's
members
here?
are present.
Okay. Can you please join Vice Mayor Cano in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather tonight for our first meeting in November, a month known as a time to honor our veterans and to remember and be thankful. We are grateful for the many blessings for our city this year, including new residents and staff, new developments and businesses, and new opportunities to build a stronger community. We are also gathered on the night before the presidential election. We pray for the protection of polling places across Arizona and our nation. We pray for peace and safety in the days following as election results come in. While there are many thoughts and prayers about the outcome of the various races, we can be confident that America is strong enough to endure whatever the outcome. Despite the voices and the actions of a few, the vast majority of Americans will get up the next day, go to work, go to school, to market, to medical care, to worship, go about their daily business. The fabric of our society is resilient and it will hold. Heavenly Father, we need an extra measure of your grace. Be with us tonight as we conduct the business of the city so that we have good discussion and make wise decisions, especially over the matters we desire to refer to the Goodyear voters in the spring. We pray for the safety and protection of our police and fire personnel, our military serving here and abroad, and for every election worker. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We have one communication item tonight. Join me in a proclamation for NASCAR Championship Weekend. Is Latasha Salzi here? Kazi, is she here? Do you want me to do it up down front, or?
Do you want to go ahead and read it here and then
We'll come down there for that? Okay. All right. Whereas auto racing provides an exciting sporting experience to be enjoyed by families across generations, and whereas the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, NASCAR, was founded in 1948 and is considered one of the top-ranked motorsports organizations in the world, and whereas each NASCAR sanctions more than 1,500 races in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Europe, and whereas NASCAR has a presence in the Valley of the Sun since 1977, and whereas in 2020, the Valley of the Sun and Phoenix Raceway were selected to host NASCAR's championship weekend at the newly remodeled and state-of-the-art Phoenix Raceway, and as such would crown 4 different drivers in 4 different series of NASCAR racing, culminating in the NASCAR Cup Championship. And whereas NASCAR Championship weekend attendees would more than close to 100,000 persons for the weekend and would positively impact economic development across all cities and towns in the Phoenix metropolitan area, whereas local communities, small and large businesses, and the entire region made such an impression that NASCAR awarded the championship race to the Valley of the Sun and Phoenix Raceway in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. And whereas each championship event are broadcasted to tens of millions of people across the nation and around the world, generating $473 million each year in revenue for Arizona and local economies, while also generating billions of social media impressions worldwide. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Joe Bazzillo, Mayor of the City of Goodyear, Arizona, do proclaim November 24th as NASCAR Championship Month, given under my hands in these free United States and the City of Goodyear on the 28th day of October, 2024, and to which I have caused the seal of the City of Goodyear to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. Come on down here. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of Goodyear City Council. We have anything?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items 2 through 7 by title only?
Number 2, approval of minutes. Number 3, approval of a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Elixir Bar and Restaurant. Number 4, approval of a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Rubio's Fresh Mexican Grill, number 225. Number 5, authorize the expenditure of construction funds up to $690,000 for capital improvement program project number 60075, Bullard Water Campus pre-filter replacement. Number 6, approve the expenditure of annual assessment payment for the IGA with Maricopa County Department of Emergency Management. Number 7, adopt resolution number 2024-2430, referring questions to be submitted to the qualified electors of the City of Goodyear with respect to amendments to the Goodyear City Charter, said questions to be submitted to the voters at a city special election to be held on May 20th, 2025.
Thank you. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The charter amendment, is there, I guess this is for the attorney, is there an opportunity for the residents at any time to call for charter changes? Or is that strictly a city council?
Mayor, council members, there are a couple of ways to do it. One is through a council referral process. There's also a citizen initiative process that you could place items on the charter, on the election for the charter.
Great, thanks.
Question on that citizen initiative. I assume that's so many signatures and to meet certain requirements?
Correct. You have to pull out the petition
Okay.
and then circulate for signatures and then present it for being placed on the ballot.
Okay, thanks for clarification. Anything else? That's it? Got a motion and a second on the board? Go ahead and open the voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what we got here. We have one public hearing tonight. We'll be considering an annexation of 2 properties south of West Lower Buckeye Road for Stream Data Center. Open a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Guadalupe Ortiz Cortez, Senior Planner. Before you this evening is a request for 2 annexations. The request includes two properties for consideration. SDC 1 is approximately 0.558 acres of property and is shown in yellow on the map in the screen. SDC 2 is an approximately 3.342 acre property shown in blue on the screen. Both properties are along South Litchfield Road, south of Lower Buckeye Road, in total approximately 3.9 acres of property. These properties are adjacent to the Stream Data Center to the west. The applicant is requesting the annexation of both properties to facilitate the road improvements along South Litchfield Road, which are associated with the construction of Stream Data Center, which is already within the city's municipal limits. Staff followed the state and city annexation policy. On July 8th, City Council authorized staff to move forward with the annexation process for both properties. On September 9th, City Council held first public hearings for these items to receive public input. Public input was not received at the public hearings or was not provided. Let me clarify that. Tonight, we're holding the final public hearings for the annexations. The proposed annexations are consistent with the city's annexation policy. The subject properties are part of the South Litchfield Road alignment and do not require additional services from what the city is already providing, the Stream Data Center. The annexation of the properties allowed the Stream Data Center to provide the necessary street improvements for the project in accordance with city standards. The annexations are in conformance with the general plan. The city's general plan designates the property as industrial. If annexed, the properties would receive an agricultural zoning, which is equivalent to its current county zoning, RU 190. Considering the requests are in compliance with the city annexation policy, staff is recommending adoption of ordinance number 2024-1690 for SDC 1, approximately 0.55 acres of property, and adoption of ordinance number 2024-1620, SDC 2, approximately 3.342 acres of property, both south of Lower Buckeye along South Litchfield Road. Mayor, City Council, this concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is in attendance tonight, and we may answer any questions you have.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak at this time? Okay, go ahead. I'm going to close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 2024-1619.
Adopt ordinance number 2024-1619, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes and amendments thereto by annexing approximately 558 acres of property along South Litchfield Road, south of West Lower Buckeye Road, which is contiguous to and surrounded by the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear, providing a city zoning designation of AG Agricultural, providing an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance and to provide a copy to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors of Maricopa County.
Thank you. With the City Council, I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2024-1619. I see a motion and a second on the board. Open it up for discussion. I see Councilmember Hampton up first.
Yeah, thank you. So I know this is a continuation of what we did in September. And then, but I want to clarify, so this is just the road portion, correct? Does it also include it's not the property that's east of that, or is it include the property east of it?
Thank you, Councilmember Hampton. Mayor, City Council, the annexation request only include the west half of the South Litchfield Road alignment. It does not include the east side of that South Litchfield Road alignment or any portions going east from there.
And is it County Island on that side? Is that how we're able to, it's not in the Avondale planning area?
Thank you, Councilmember Hampton, Mayor, council members. The road alignment was not part of the Avondale planning area.
Okay, but that property east of that road is Avondale?
That is correct.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm just clarifying. No, I think it's good. It'll be good for streams to have better road access down to there and into that part of the city. So, yep, thank you for all your hard work.
Councilmember Campbell?
My question is, for the road improvement, is it the yellow on the map? Just the yellow part is what they will be improving, not the entire Litchfield Road in the blue as well?
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell, Mayor, Council. The road improvements will include the entirety of the property for Stream Data Center, which is from South Litchfield Road from Lower Buckeye Road to Broadway Road. The line in the yellow is part of the first annexation proposal, SDC 1, and the line in the blue is part of the second annexation proposal, SDC 2.
But in the agreement, it's, the road alignment will be the entire road to the west, not to the east.
That is correct. It would be the west half of the South Litchfield Road alignment.
Okay, does that mean they're going to make a two-lane from Lower Buckeye to Broadway on the west side? Is that what we're talking about?
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell, Mayor, council members. The South Litchfield Road alignment is for a major arterial and calls out for 3 lanes in each direction. So it would be 3 lanes in the west half of Litchfield Road, and I believe conversations are occurring on the east half of Litchfield Road. I was personally contacted by a architect working on a project on the Avondale property across from Stream Data Center, so conversations are on the way for that east side of South Litchfield Road.
All right, is there any stipulations at all of how long they have to do the road alignment or the road enlargement? Or is it open-ended?
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell, Mayor, council members. In the site plan stipulations, I did not see any timeframes requiring the improvements to be done at a certain time, but I believe that the annexation is part of any final occupancy or permits being issued so that they are encouraged to continue to work on this. And if the applicant perhaps is able to speak on a timeframe.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having, I'm Faye Souders. I'm with BFSO. I'm an attorney for SDC, and SDC 1 and SDC 2. At this point, I think they are, I don't have an exact time frame as to when that's going to be planned to be completed, but it is planned to be done as quickly as possible. I don't think that's something that they're going to want to have to wait to do. It's part of their requirement with the development of the SDC campus that they basically need to dedicate this half portion of the Litchfield Road all the way down. And this will help the city be able to develop this road in it according to the standards of Goodyear. So at this point, what you can see from the staff report as well is that it's next to Avondale. It's got county, it's part of the county. And at this point, there's not really future plans for Avondale to do the west portion of the roadway. And so with that being said, in order to be able to annex this, SDC will be dedicating this and improving it, and then the city would only be responsible at the end to be able to maintain it.
Okay, thank you.
You good? All right, see no further discussion up here. Can you go open up? Passes 7-0. Thank you. The city clerk, please read the ordinance number 2024-1620 by title only.
Adopt ordinance number 2024-1620, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the city of Goodyear, Maricopa County, state of Arizona pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes and amendments thereto by annexing approximately .342 acres of property along South Litchfield Road, south of West Lower Buckeye Road, which is contiguous to and surrounded by the existing city limits of the city of Goodyear, providing a city zoning designation of AG agricultural, providing an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance and to provide a copy to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors of Maricopa County.
Thank you. City Council, please enter a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance 2024-1620. See a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, go ahead and open the speaking. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have an item for business. We'd like to remind council to wait for a motion and a second before discussing. Our first item is a franchise agreement with Epcor Water Arizona in for a special election. Please introduce yourself to the public. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Rorik Massey, I'm the city attorney. I'm going to do one presentation for the next two items. They're both to consider the possible approval of franchise agreements with Epcor and Liberty Utilities. Both agreements are substantively the same. Just a reminder that franchise agreements are required by the city charter and the Arizona Constitution. Those agreements are between the city and private utilities for the operation of those utilities within the city's right-of-way. The terms of these agreements are not to regulate how the utility operates. It only regulates how they use our right-of-way. And that is for the location of their infrastructure, relocation of that infrastructure, and restoration of our property after they've entered into our right-of-way. And that's what generally these two agreements outline. While we don't regulate the utilities and how they operate, there are terms in the agreement that they will be in compliance with the regulations of the governmental authorities that regulate utilities. Typically, that's the Arizona Corporations Commission, the EPA, and Maricopa County. So there is provisions in the terms of the agreements that they will operate in compliance with the various regulations on public utilities. Epcor currently provides water service in the city. The agreement does provide that they can provide wastewater service in the future if they're permitted by the Arizona Corporations Commission. And as we know, Liberty provides both water and wastewater services to the northern part of the city. The franchise agreements, per our charter, have to be considered and approved by the council. Then they're subsequently referred to the voters. If approved this evening, the two agreements will be placed on the ballot in May of 2025. The utilities are both required to pay for 1/3 of the cost of the election. Since the city is referring the charter, we are going to pick up 1/3 of the cost of the election. And the next item tonight will be approving and calling for that election. I think the cost of the election is estimated to be about $169,000, with each of the three parties picking up 1/3 of that cost. So generally, at a high level, the terms of the two agreements, they're both 25-year terms. It specifies that all right-of-way work will be performed in compliance with city regulations. Both parties will be required to pull city permits before performing work in our right-of-way. Neither will be required to pay for permit fees, but they will be paying a franchise fee that encompasses the cost of those permit fees. Right-of-way will be restored to its original condition, or same or similar condition as approved by the city. And we have put a provision in that right-of-way work will be performed promptly to get them in and out of our right-of-way as quickly as possible. The franchise fees for both utilities will be 3% of their gross receipts for providing their services within the city. It's generally estimated probably about $30,000 per year for Epcor. We're estimating about $150,000 a year will be the franchise fee for Liberty. And both utilities are required to relocate utilities if in furtherance of a City of Goodyear governmental function. So we're doing a city project that their utilities interfere with. Both parties are required at their cost to relocate their utilities. And we will be working with the clerk's office and digital communications if council approves this item this evening for voter educational purposes in advance of the election. And with that, I will answer any questions you may have on the two franchise-free agreements.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? City Clerk, please read Resolution 2024-2431 by title only.
Adopt Resolution Number 2024-2431, approving a franchise agreement between the City of Goodyear and Epcor Water Arizona Incorporated, its successors and assigns, and placing the approval of the franchise agreement on the ballot of a special election to be held on May 20th, 2025, that grants Epcor Water Arizona Incorporated, its successors and assigns the right, privilege, and franchise to construct, maintain, and operate upon, over, and/or along the public rights-of-way in the City of Goodyear, Arizona, and future additions thereto, water delivery and wastewater collection systems with all necessary appurtenances for the purpose of supplying water and collecting wastewater to the city, its successors, the inhabitants thereof, and persons and corporations, either within or beyond the limits thereof, for all purposes prescribing certain rights, duties, terms, and conditions in respect thereto.
Thank you. The City Council reads enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2024-2431. I see a motion and a second, and before I turn it over, this isn't the first time we heard this, right?
No,
Just saying
council's
it's
been
not the
briefed on
first
this,
time.
yes.
Right, okay, thank you. Not publicly, but it's not the first time. All right, Councilmember Hampton? No, that's right, you're not on. It's, I'm sorry there, Mr. Hampton. Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. Rorik, if the voters do not approve this, what happens?
If the voters do not approve, we will work with the utilities to work through terms, try to revise the terms that may be more in line with what the voters are expecting. Likely would enter license agreements with both utilities in the meantime to define likely the same terms. Both of these agreements are fairly standard. Other cities have agreements in place that are very similar, so these are generally industry standard agreements.
Have we not had anything in place before? Is this taking the place of something else, or is this the first time?
With EPCOR, we have a license agreement currently in place that's going to expire shortly. We do not have an agreement in place with Liberty. So this will give us more control over Liberty's work in the right of way.
Okay, and my last question is, how long does this franchise agreement last for each one, Epicor and Liberty?
Each of them is 25 years.
So in 25 years, they'll come back to either redo it or change it?
Correct, but I don't plan on working on the next agreement.
Yeah,
None of us will.
none of us will.
None of us will, but I just want to make sure this isn't a lifetime commitment in case in the future they want to get out from underneath it.
That's correct. It's standard for franchise agreements. The agreements we have with Southwest Gas
Right.
and APS are both 25-year
And
agreements.
Cox, I think, is
Yeah.
also the same.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Kano.
Is the voter approval just a one-time, or do you have to get voter approval every time you renew it?
Every time you renew it, it has to go back to the vote.
Okay. Will it be a simple majority to pass, or is there a calculation, 50% plus one?
Simple majority.
Simple
50%
majority.
plus one.
Okay. Well, I just want to comment, I think it's really good for us to have a structure with these entities that do a lot of business, and I like how we're just putting parameters around our right-of-way working anyway. So I think that this is a great thing, and hopefully we can convince Goodyear voters to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stipp.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. We had, I think it got lost in some of the light banter just a minute ago. Can you tell the public, everybody that has franchise agreement, we're not just singling out these two?
We don't. The two that come to mind are APS and Southwest Gas, and I think we've been, I'm trying to recall, we're 10 or 15 years into those agreements. We have similar long-term agreements with Cox Cable and the other utilities. The coaxial cable are handled a little bit differently under state regulations, but we do have these long-term agreements governing the use of our right-of-way with the various type utilities.
And is there a downside to the public for these agreements to be in place?
I don't believe so, because it governs the use of the right-of-way and then the restoration of the right-of-way and even private property adjacent to the right-of-way.
So it really protects us?
It protects us and protects the citizen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, see you no more. And this is, you're going to do this for both, right? Your presentation, okay.
That's for both for both items, yes.
Can I get open it up to vote? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Our next item is to consider a franchise agreement with Liberty Utility for the special election. You're already back up there. You've given the presentation. Any cards?
No, Mayor.
No. Go ahead and read the resolution, please.
Adopt resolution number 2024-2432, approving a franchise agreement between the City of Goodyear and Liberty Utilities, Litchfield Park Water and Sewer Corporation, its successors and assigns, and placing the approval of the franchise agreement on the ballot of a special election to be held on May 20th, 2025, that grants Liberty Utilities, Litchfield Park Water and Sewer Corporation, its successors and assigns the right, privilege, and franchise to construct, maintain, and operate upon, over, and/or along the public rights-of-way in the City of Goodyear, Arizona, and future additions thereto, water delivery and wastewater collection systems with all necessary appurtenances for the purpose of supplying water and collecting wastewater to the city, its successors, the inhabitants thereof, and persons and corporations either within or beyond the limits thereof for all purposes prescribing certain rights, duties, terms, and conditions in respect thereto.
Thank you. City Council, enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2024-2432. We got a motion and a second. Any questions, any further? Go ahead and open up for the vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Our last item is consider the call of special election for May 20th, 2025. Please introduce yourself for the public.
Darcy McCracken, City Clerk. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Earlier tonight, you approved the charter changes to be going to the election in May, and you just approved the franchise agreements to go to the election as well. And this is actually the formalizing of the call of election, which is required in statute when it's a special election. So Resolution 2024-2427 will actually call the election for May 20th, 2025. And as City Attorney Massey said, we are estimating the cost to be about $169,000, but those costs will be split the three ways between us and the two franchisees. And so about $56,000 will be our portion of that. This is an all-mail ballot election, so with each Goodyear voter that is qualified will actually automatically receive their ballot in the mail. So hopefully they all return them. And as we do for any of our elections that have any kind of charter changes or anything that has or requires more information, we will be doing an information pamphlet. And that pamphlet will be mailed out to all the voters closer to the election, obviously. But we do also take in arguments from people that have any kind of opinion for or against the items that are going to be on the ballot. And those arguments are going to be taken between December 1st, 2024 and February 19th, 2025. And that concludes, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, first, the city clerk read the resolution while you're up there for 2024-2427 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2024-2427, calling a special election for May 20th, 2025, providing notice of a special election, designating the date that voter registration closes, designating the place and beginning and ending dates, to accept arguments for and against the questions, authorizing the city manager or designee to enter into all agreements to effectuate election services, and ordering the city clerk to publish the notice of election.
Thank you. City Council, please enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2024-2427. I see a motion and a second up there. Any questions? Let's open up the vote. Passes 7-0. With that, does council have any comments, commendations, or reports on current events or future items?
I think I saw Brian Woodard in the audience. I just want to say congratulations to him getting Emergency Manager of the Year award. So he must have took his prize and took off. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to recognize him, say congratulations to him and all the hard work that he does as well. So, and then, yeah, I've been to a couple of ribbon cuttings this week with Bubba's grand opening today. And yeah, so a lot of great things happening. It's the season of a lot of events coming up in the city of Goodyear. So make sure you get out and enjoy some of those events. So thank you.
Campbell, Councilmember Campbell?
I just wanted to let the public know that the Pebble Creek Home Tour was a success on Saturday. We sold out in 2 weeks. All the tickets that were available. We enjoyed having Chief Islett and Deputy Chief Kirk follow me around and be introduced to the residents of Pebble Creek, and it was very successful. I cannot tell you how much we raised because we still have money coming in, and we'll be turning it over to the city very shortly, and we'll let you know when we have a final count.
Tell me what it's for.
Oh, I'm sorry, and all of the proceeds go to the Shop with a Cop for the Goodyear Police Department. It's a charity that I have been chairman of for 15 years, going on my 16th year, and it's 28 years that it's been going on for for Pebble Creek. And we do a home tour where residents open up their home, and we sell tickets, and you have to have a ticket to get in, and all that money goes to the Shop with a Cop. And the Shop with a Cop will be held December the 15th at the Walmart Super Center on Estrella Parkway, and it's wonderful to watch the kids come and shop for Christmas.
Vice Mayor, anything? Councilmember Gillis, did you want?
Yep. I wanted just to extend a congratulations. We went to a swearing in of Deputy Chief Chip Kirk today, and Chief Issett, you did a great job swearing him in as your new deputy chief. I know you're excited about that. We're excited about that. So we say congratulations to him.
Bill, did you have anything? Bill, did you have anything? No? Okay, go ahead.
I'm very excited. Can't you tell?
I know, I can tell you.
I'm really excited. Well, the other thing that was different, and I think I probably missed the mayor just by a few minutes, was the chalk art in the park
Yeah, that
that
was
our Parks and Rec does, and it was just wonderful. We had the youth commission that was out there, the volunteers for the art and culture, the fire department was out there walking around, making sure everyone was safe. It was a beautiful day. So I took some great pictures, so thank you very much. I think everybody loved that.
Yeah, I think you might have, just before that, I had the autism awareness that I saw at the ballpark, and that was a great turnout. And it's a West Valley thing. The whole, Mayor Buckeye was there, council members from Avondale was there, police chiefs were there. So it was a great event, for autism. And that's what I think is one of the greatest things about this city is when people step up and help others. I mean, I don't know of any city that does it better than we do when it comes to that. So with that, city manager, you have something?
Well, I have the numbers for those two
Okay, good.
events. It was a busy weekend. Chalk art in the park, we had close to attendance of 1,800 individuals attend that. So 5 food trucks and a lot of drawings of great artwork. The Sounds of Autism, we had around 397 families, 100 educators and their families, 82 vendor stations. Like you said, we had the first responders out there, so a very nice event there. And the last one was the Puchuco AZ Holiday Car Show and Toy Drive. We had 100 car entries, 200 toys donated, 6 vendors, and 1,200 attendees during the event at the ballpark. They raised approximately $3,000.
Oh, how nice.
That's
That's it.
awesome. And again,
Very
that's
nice.
what I think is one of the positive things in our community is great. With that, next meeting will be November 18th, 2024. No further business on this one. This meeting is closed. What? We've got another one going right behind us. I'd like to call work session to order for November 4th, 2024. City clerk, roll. Everybody here? Well, we will have everybody here shortly, I guess, right? All right, with that, we have 3 items. First item, remind council that staff will be pausing every so often to answer any questions. First item is the urban camping ordinance. I'd like to remind council the staff will be pausing every so often to answer any questions on the urban camping ordinance, so. Introduce yourself just please to the audience, so the public knows who we have up.
Absolutely. Mayor and council, good evening. I'm Jenna Goad, the assistant to the city manager, and I'm joined today by Brian Issett, our chief of police. We're here tonight seeking council's feedback on a proposed amendment to city code regarding unauthorized camping in public places, also known as urban camping. Recent judicial opinions have presented an opportunity for us to strengthen our city code in this area. And we've worked with Parks and Rec, Neighborhood Services, the prosecutor's office, the city court, legal services, and of course, the police department to put together this draft ordinance for council's consideration tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Pizzillo and council members. Currently, the City of Goodyear Police Department has a homeless outreach team, otherwise known as HOT, which consists of 2 officers and 1 shared sergeant. The team regularly engages with individuals in Goodyear experiencing homelessness to offer them resources and other support. The team always meets these individuals with resources first, while building and maintaining relationships. Those efforts are supplemented by an agreement with the Phoenix Rescue Mission for additional street outreach and support. The most recent point in time count occurred at the beginning of 2024 and found that there were 30 unsheltered individuals in Goodyear, this being up from the 2023 point in time count of 22. While the homeless outreach team does their best to lead with resources, they do have the ability to cite for trespassing and other illegal behavior, but we're limited by the Martin versus Boise ruling on what restrictions could be enacted.
Thank you. As I mentioned previously, the recent Supreme Court opinion in the Johnson versus Grants Pass case provides the ability to enact more restrictions in this area. Other Arizona cities, including Gilbert, Glendale, Phoenix, and Prescott, have already enacted such restrictions, and this draft ordinance is based off of those examples.
With the most recent Supreme Court ruling, we are looking to amend the city code in reference to camping, otherwise known as urban camping. The new ordinance, or the proposed ordinance, defines camping, meaning using real property in the city of Goodyear for living accommodation purposes on a temporary or permanent basis, regardless of the intent of the participants or the nature of any other activities in which they may also be engaging, when under the circumstances it reasonably appears that the participants are using the area for living accommodation purposes. These purposes include, but are not limited to, camping on public property, using tents or shelters, making preparations to sleep, storing personal belongings, making fires or cooking, or digging or earth breaking. The proposed changes define what camping is and also the prohibitions. The prohibitions would include not camping in or on any public property within the city of Goodyear unless expressly designated as a permitted campsite or otherwise expressly permitted by the city. Not camping in or on any building, facility, parking lot, or structure that is owned, possessed, or controlled by the city of Goodyear. Not camping within 500 feet of any property boundary of a school, childcare facility, shelter, or park. Let's put these up. Also, along with this, the proposed ordinance, there are exceptions. Exemptions for this ordinance would include permits or reservations authorized by the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department, any camping which occurs 12 or hours less in the parking lots of any stadium owned by Goodyear. Number 3, any person issued a special event permit or other permission in the city of Goodyear. Violations for this ordinance would be categorized as a Class 1 misdemeanor. It should be noted that prior to any person receiving a citation for a violation of this ordinance, the person would have to have had a previous warning within the last 12 calendar months, or the property on which the violation occurs is clearly marked with post-it signs and a warning of the ordinance and the penalties. Additionally, in lieu of any sentence being imposed on violators, the court may sentence a person to perform community restitution or order a term of education or treatment. If justified, the prosecutor's office, in conjunction with the court, will explore creating a diversion program as well. The intent of this ordinance proposal is to protect public health and preserve public places for the enjoyment of all Goodyear residents and visitors. This proposal supports the safe and vibrant community focus area in the strategic plan and is another tool for the homeless outreach team that they would have available to them. If approved, the police department will create a standard operating procedure on the correct use of this ordinance in conjunction with training to all department personnel. Essentially, this would allow for targeted enforcement against repeat offenders or those who are refusing services, with the goal of helping these individuals access services and improve their situation.
So Mayor and Council, again, we're here tonight seeking your feedback on the proposed amendment. If Council wishes to proceed, this would be brought back for formal adoption on November 18th. And with that, Mayor and Council, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, looks like the whole board is lit up here, so let's go here with Laura Tom.
See, I got it right this time.
I tell you.
Jumped the gun.
You didn't jump the gun.
So thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. And I know legal worked a lot on this as well. I think this is very important, and I really like how this is handled. I think it's handled with compassion and caring because, but the grace of God, there goes I in many cases. I've had the opportunity to work a lot with the Phoenix Rescue Mission. They do absolutely wonderful services, and I'm glad that we're looking to continue having them as a partner. I think so the public knows that we are looking at this to try to get services first. I think that's great how you stress that. Try to get people off the streets, try to get them housed, get services. This is definitely a tool in your toolbox for those that don't want services, or maybe they're not ready for services and need a little extra motivation. And I think I would love to see a diversion program come back with the prosecutor's office for those possibly maybe the first time repeat offender gets a chance to, get diverted if they go in services, kind of like that. You have the keys to the jail type of theory. So I think this is a great option. I think now we cover public areas. I think we cover private areas with the trespassing. I do have a question because I knew we had some problems like off by the Cotton Lane Bridge, and this is obviously before you, is about a year ago, we had several homeless people. I don't know if that falls under, it's not our land. It's not really private, but there were some people tent camping there for extended periods of time. And when residents would go hike or something, they were kind of concerned in that area under those trails under the bridge. So I'm not sure if we have to continue maybe asking Harvard to trespass because they own that now, or how we would do that and post that. But I just want to make sure that I think we've got everything covered so your officers have the tools. So thank you very much, and I appreciate how this is handled in a dignified manner to keep our citizens safe and get services to those that want to get it. So I appreciate your work.
Councilmember Gillis?
Oh, it's about time. That's all I can say. Brian is new, and I provided you with a report that I did, you saw. And I rode around with your officers that you are now in charge of for 8 months last year. And I went to the mayor and I asked him if I could go out and check the washes because I saw the encampments that were starting out there. And whereas I do feel for everybody in there before the grace of God go I also look at the other side of it because I walked out in those washes and I walked in those encampments and I saw fentanyl and hypodermic needles everywhere. And what I'm concerned about more than anything is the children that ride their bikes in those lights, and in those areas, and also the taxpaying citizen who doesn't need to put up with that. So I thank God, 8 months, now almost 2 years later, that we're finally doing something about this, because Wynette did assist me in raising money to get those washes plowed out. We got everything removed, as you know. But are they going to come back? When everything starts growing back, will they come back? And the main thing I worry about is drugs, the amount of drugs. And I'm sure you can attest to that. I know Scott, who is sitting in the audience, I know how much he has dealt with. He's head of the homeless outreach team. He's amazing. And he's done a lot of work for this as well as the sober living homes. We don't want those to be closed down and end up with a bunch of homeless people there too, which was one of our concerns. So I'm super stoked on this. I'm really happy that we're going to do something about it. I think it's long past due. Those encampments, especially in those washes, have been there for years and years and years, and they were finally addressed last year. So thank you for doing this. This means a lot.
Vice Mayor?
Our draft ordinance, is it consistent with the other cities that you mentioned that are doing an ordinance? Are we outliers, or are we pretty compatible to what they're doing?
Vice Mayor, Mayor, my understanding is yes, that it is based on examples from those cities. Our legal services folks did research and prepared the draft
All
ordinance.
right. I think we want to ensure that we have the fullest ability to enforce as much as possible. And so you mentioned notification. Certainly, as you engage the homeless, you're going to inform them, but you mentioned sign. Is there a plan now to purchase signs and to put them up to notify people of the camping?
Mayor Pizzillo and Council Vice Mayor Kano. So I think we would have to work and figure out where we're having the most issues, and then especially target those areas with signage. But yes, that definitely gives us the opportunity to put signage up on City of Goodyear property to present that warning, which also takes away the 12-month preclusion of
Right.
not being warned in person.
Good. Yeah, I think the signage has to be timely as well as the implementation of the ordinance as, for consistent enforcement. I also support the implementation of a diversion program. I think that would be a good resource. And both Councilmember Gillis and I have been on ride-alongs with the Phoenix Rescue Mission Hope Coach. They do great work, and I believe that they're contracted for a certain period of time per week. And I would say during this budget process, make sure that they are contracted for sufficient as our numbers are growing. The case management that they provide is exceptional. They handle a lot of things that would take our officers' times, a lot of Social Security, lots of things. So they do a great job. Now, our retention basins, I know that we have no trespassing signs because of the hazard that they produce. What about the Gila River, the riverbed? What are we gonna be able to enforce any camping there?
So, yeah, Mayor Pizzillo, Vice Mayor Kano. I'm not sure who exactly owns that property. This specific ordinance is directed at any City of Goodyear real property.
All right.
So we would have to do a little bit of research and,
We'll get back to you on
All
that
right,
one.
because it runs right through our city, and so obviously it's a place for people to go. Thank you very much, and we're excited that we can move up to this level.
Councilmember Campbell?
I just want to thank both of you for bringing this forward. I know we couldn't move until we had more clarity from not only the Supreme Court, but a lot of entities. So this is not an immediate fix. But this is the first step, and I really appreciate the way you've laid it out. I don't know very much else what we can do as a city because we do not have any homeless shelters. We do refer them for services. We do not only with the Phoenix Rescue Mission, but we do a lot with other nonprofits, and we support them for their services as well. And we have a very active veteran services at our library that is working with Glendale and to provide services that they may not know they can get. I know we work with Glendale for their stand down. Our court judge goes and is a judge over there, and a lot of us volunteer at it. So I think we go out of our way to try to help these people. And like you said, there's some that do not want help. They just want to live free and just wander. And not everybody who wanders is lost, so I'm told. So I just would like us to continue to do what we're doing because I think we're doing a very good job. Our numbers have gone up, but they've gone up for a lot of reasons. We have some very generous people in our city that tends to give a lot of money to these panhandlers, and it's easy money, it's easy fix for them. And I don't know how we could stop that, but I just think to stop them from actually camping and being behind our dumpsters and being behind Best Buy and every place that we've been to, and we've seen them for the last 20 years that I've lived here. We've seen them. They just come and go. So we're a pass-through. But anyway, thank you very much. And if you see that we need to beef up any of these areas or whatever, let us know and bring it back. Don't wait till we have a real problem, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, no, thank you for all the hard work. So the signs, since it's our property, they don't need to rotate like we do on the ADOT off-ramps, right? For panhandling, right? So we can keep them up. Okay, just clarify on that. And then I'm surprised in Gila River that we can't put signs in there, because I know we have City of Goodyear signs in the wash, in the riverbed for no UTV riding and things like that. So they've been there for 20 years, so I've driven by them, so. But yeah, so so I'd be surprised if we don't have access to that, so. And then, I know we have the Maricopa County Trail System going through our city too, so I just want to make sure that if people are hiking that trail system, we're not gonna limit their ability to do that with this ordinance. And then do we have permits already created or is that part of this process? Can you go online and I can get a permit to go camp somewhere in Goodyear?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, no, I don't believe that we have that currently. It would be something that we would need to roll out if this were adopted moving forward.
I don't know yet. I'm just curious. It said that was an option for exclusion, so I have no idea where I'd want to camp. Well, I got some ideas, but yeah. So I was just curious, just how that process would work. I understand events like maybe Camp Go Back and things like that. Maybe there's things like that we want to do in the community, or you're saying like tailgating or other events, or I don't know, Black Friday is not really a thing anymore, but I want to trespass people off Black Friday. That's private property though. Or people staying up all night to go for the grand opening of Bubba's or other things like that. So I have to make sure the unintended consequences that we see where we're at with people doing it the right ways as well. I understand the reason why we're doing it, which is fine. So I understand we want people to get into the programs they need to be successful and be able to find a safe place to live and to get back into society. So yeah, thank you for all you're doing. I like the idea of coordinating with other nonprofits to help us with this, and I definitely support the HOT team and their mission and everything that they're doing. So I know they do a lot of good work. So thank you for bringing this to us, and yeah, looking forward to more information as it comes back, because I know it's just a work session, so thank you. Yeah.
Mayor and Council, if I may, the individual campers may be something that we would issue a permit for. The ordinance allows for permits to be issued for special event use types, like you mentioned, Camp Go Back or the school's educational, things like that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be for individual campers, but rather for events taking place.
Okay, so not individual. So I couldn't go on my app and be like, I'm going to camp in Goodyear tonight. I'm going to go. Okay. Okay, so more groups is what you're saying. Okay.
Like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, Boy Scouts or things like that.
Yeah, so
that
we
wanna do
wouldn't
things.
issue individual permits to individual campers. It would be on an event basis that would cover the event in totality.
Okay. Yeah, and I can't foresee things, but if someone's like, hey, we're gonna go hike, but from Skyline to Estrella, and we're gonna go through Goodyear to
That
do
would
that.
more or less be on county property in the Estrella Regional Park, but you would not be able to do that along an urban trail or
on the
anything like that.
Maricopa County Trail.
Correct.
Okay, I was just curious what you guys were thinking, what that would look like, so, okay, no, thank you.
Councilmember Stipp.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. And thanks to, I'm going to say, everyone on council who has been working on this issue for the last couple of years. You know, we all want to talk about the result, which is the urban camping, but we as a city council, we as a city, we as a humanity have a responsibility to try to prevent the homelessness situation. So let's not forget about that part of it either. This is dealing with the fallout of all of that. But if we can prevent homelessness, then we have done a really good job of taking care of really our fellow man. You know, we proclaim to be a one nation under God kind of thing, but then we tell everybody you're on your own. So let's not lose sight of what we can do to prevent the homelessness from occurring. We also know from the original discussions that we had back in 2020 that this is really a regional problem as well. It's not a Goodyear problem, it's not an Avondale problem, it's not a Glendale problem, it is all of our problem. And we can't let off the accelerator on that. And I know there's a number of people who will remain on council that will sit on those regional committees. And please continue that work so that we don't lose sight of the situation. I think we have probably reached the best solution that we can with this ordinance, and trying to do our best to. I'm encouraged, I should say, really, that we're going to approach this from a let's get you help and let's not turn this into a court problem. I'm encouraged by that, and I just hope that we remember to donate to those charities that are helping and not the individual person affected by it. I think that's the biggest thing. Councilmember Campbell brought up a really good point. We're a very generous community, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But by quote unquote donating to the individual, we are actually making the problem worse. So if there's a takeaway from any of the news agencies or anybody looking at this, is really we need to get this as a holistic problem and don't help the individual. But let's not lose sight of that as well. But thank you to everybody who's worked on it, particularly thanks for the staff, but to my fellow members on council, thank you for all the work that you've done.
Councilmember Loretano?
I think Bill just covered it. That's what I was thinking. There's other programs and other cities handle it different ways. I think in Phoenix downtown, they used to have these little meters that said, don't hand out cash to the homeless here. That way, put cash, and they had these little fake meters around, and I don't know if that worked or not, but to basically, so that would go to the nonprofits that were helping the people. And I think maybe this would also, a good part of this might be some reach out effort to the businesses in the community, and kind of really inform them that we do have, the HOT team does provide services first. And if they see someone that's homeless, how can they, reach to the right people on your team to make sure that the people at least try to get them services. So I think maybe add some more outreach to the community, because like Councilmember Campbell said, we do have a lot of people that really do care. And sometimes what you think is doing the right thing is maybe just making the problem worse, because we don't have the training to get these people the services that a lot of them need. So especially this holiday season, a lot of people have open hearts and really want to help. And I think it's really important that we get them to services, because if you don't get them to services, they're going to end up in jail, and they're not going to be held that long anyway in jail. So they'll be right back there. So that's the fix, is to get them off the streets, services, and like what Councilmember Stipp said, so they don't come back. And I think that's what we want. So we have a safe community for everyone. So thank you.
Councilmember Gillis?
This is a question. So the one thing that I noticed when I was doing all those ride-alongs during that 8 months is that we would go out into the washes. They'd actually drive out into them. And that the homeless people that we encountered, they didn't want help. And so at that point, the guys couldn't do anything. They told them that they needed to leave because some of the stuff was trespassing, and they better move or they were going to be arrested. They gave them the chance. But here's my question to you is, there's something that just passed not long ago, I think, because I was sent some information on it, maybe 2-3 months ago, that we can move them now, we can take them and get them help. What is that? How do we, when they say they don't want help, then what do we do to help them? Because we're all trying to help them and do the nice thing because we all want to help them. But if they say they don't want help, because we had to leave them where they were. And so what do we do? How do we address that then?
So Mayor Pizzillo, Councilmember Gillis, that is exactly, I believe, why we're here with this proposed ordinance. So the Boise versus Martin precluded us from enforcing any camping ordinances at all, especially because Goodyear doesn't have a shelter.
Right.
And so this actually helps us. It gives the homeless outreach team and any patrol officer that is out there responding to a call for service the ability to actually, if there's a refusal, then we actually have a little bit more teeth to, to provide that enforcement, but also more importantly, to get resources to those individuals.
So you can remove them then? If they say, no, I don't want to go, as I saw many times, you can,
That's what this ordinance is for.
and that would be to the homeless outreach team.
Yes.
Basically.
And obviously, when the homeless outreach team is not on duty, we have
Whoever's
third shift
dealing with it.
officers or
Right, right.
whoever, they would be able to use the same ordinance, which is why we'd be training the entire department personnel on this ordinance and how to use it correctly.
Okay, because that bothered me. It's like they don't want anything. We have to leave here. It's 118 degrees. We're leaving him here. We don't know if we're going to come back and they're going to be demised. You know what I mean? Because they don't have any water, they don't have anything, but they don't want to leave because they're doing drugs, a lot of them. I witnessed it. So that's my main concern, is that if we can get them and get them help and make them get help, that's awesome. Then we are doing our job. And again, Scott, I keep looking at him like this. I don't mean to do this, but you are awesome and your team is awesome. So thank you, and thank you, Chief Issett, for that team. Thanks.
Well, the only thing I'm going to add, a lot of discussion on here, is I'm in fully support of what you're trying to do. And now you do have a little more teeth in the bite as a result of the court case. But I also agree there's other places to send them. But if they do not want it, at least you have a little more bite in the ordinance now. So I appreciate you working on this and bringing this for us. Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right, with that, next up, pavement cut policy. Who's got that? There we go. Please introduce yourself for the public.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sumit Mohan. I'm the Public Works Director. Joining me today is Brian Harwell, our Streets Maintenance Superintendent. We'll switch the gears back to regulation and preservation of our public right-of-way, where we started the evening. So this proposed policy update is about preservation and protection of one of our most valuable assets in the city of Goodyear, which is our streets. It costs about $1.5 million to build a lane, a mile of a collector street in a small urban area like Goodyear. So doing the math quickly, it puts our streets as an almost $1.7 billion asset. So it's a pretty substantial asset that we have, which we are trying to protect. So in order to manage our right-of-way, we need to make sure that our streets are maintained in the best possible condition for today, tomorrow, and into the future. And we believe that this proposed policy update will do exactly that. I'll just share the agenda with you very quickly, but I'll just touch up a little bit on some details on what this entails. So as our current pavement cut policy, which is in place right now, has been in place since about 2012. So it's about time that we update it at this time. As Goodyear continues to grow, utility companies, developers, and even a lot of city projects, they routinely cut into our city streets, which reduces our pavement condition index. We had touched on pavement condition index a few months ago when we discussed the fiscal year 2025 pavement management program. So updating our current pavement cut policy is a critical component of our comprehensive pavement management program. Pavement cuts, like you are seeing on the screen, they can be problematic for many reasons. One of those is that they weaken the roadway and lead to the road surface sinking or deforming over time. Number two, they create an uneven surface which can be dangerous for pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. Also, they require additional repairs, which can lead to long-term maintenance costs being excessive. Our agenda, again, will be very quick. We'll talk about the current cut policy, the way it exists now. Then we'll touch up on proposed cut policy, and then the timeline. This is just an example of, we'll show you some examples of city streets as a result of our current cut policy. This is Yuma Road, which was about 2 years old, and just right after construction, a quilt work of patches started forming on it because of different utility cuts. Likewise, as you know that we have been doing so much work on Saraville, similar thing on Saraville, lots of cuts, and as you have seen the lot of development work which is going on Elwood right now, so we are seeing all kinds of pavement cuts going on Elwood as well. Now, when a pavement cut happens, you see things on the surface like you're seeing in this picture right now. And even though the pavement cut may appear superficial just on the surface, the impacts actually go deep down, which are not visible, and they actually damage the pavement a lot more, much beyond the confines of the pavement cut. And we'll show you a little geeky engineering model of that, what actually happens. So you may see a trench that is about 1 foot wide, but you might see that on the surface, although the negative impacts of this pavement cut will go about 5 to 8 feet deep 5 to 8 feet wide as you go further down the trench. So with a small patch repair, water can seep around the edges and weaken the pavement. That is what we are trying to avoid. Impacts of our current cut policy. This picture is of a street intersection in our city as a result of what happens because of our current policy. You will see lots of these pavement cuts and patch repairs, but the grade doesn't show too well, so we did a little highlighting, so you will see the different pavement cuts that actually have happened over a period of time. And this is basically pretty damaging to our pavement and the grade and the subgrade underneath. Our current policy is focused on a pavement cut surcharge, which imposes minimal fees for cuts 36 months and younger and none for older pavement. Now, these minimal fees that we collect are not sufficient to fund future pavement preservation projects either. And what happens is that our current practice, it results in a patchwork of pavement cut repairs of city streets. The proposed cut policy, our focus will be on restoration and repair of city streets from a long-term maintenance perspective and to keep our roads in as good or better condition than it was before the pavement cut. We will get away from the collection of surcharge fees, and by adopting this policy, we will improve our pavement condition index, yes. But in addition, we will really protect the structure and the integrity of our roads for the long term. Cities of Phoenix and Chandler have had such policies in place for the last 7 years. So they have tested the waters, and we have also learned from some of their experiences what went well, what did not go well, and we have addressed that in our version of the policy. Now, a little bit of technical details here because of all the members of the public who might be listening right now. The proposed policy would require pavement cuts to be repaired with new asphalt and crack sealing around the edges of the cut and to be restored with a secondary treatment, which would be, before I get into the detail of what that is, it is basically to prevent the water from seeping under the pavement and provide an extra layer of protection, sort of like an umbrella for protecting the subgrade underneath. Now, for streets that are less than 2 years old, the requirement would be that the secondary treatment would be an asphalt overlay or inlay for the full width of the all impacted travel lanes. Now, for streets that are more than 2 years old, it'll be less intensive treatment, and it would be a micro or slurry seal depending on the project details. In addition, the treatment would extend 25 feet beyond in both directions beyond the pavement cut. Initially, we will post a list of new streets and pavement preservation projects completed in the last 24 months, and those that are planned in the next 24 months on our Public Works Department website. Later on, we will show these on our GIS map of the city. To give you an example of what is happening right now and what we can expect in the future. Our current policy, in this first image on the left side of the screen, you will see the repair of a lateral pavement cut, which is a result of our current cut policy. That would just be left like that. In the second image, under our proposed policy, this will be the impact that you will see that the proposed policy will require the repair to be going 25 feet in both directions. To give you another example of a longitudinal cut, so you will see on the left side of the screen the repair of a longitudinal pavement cut, which is a result of a pavement cut to a street which is slightly over 2 years old. And you can just see the cut repair in slightly darker shade of gray. In the second image, which is proposed policy, you will see that the results of a micro seal pavement treatment applied in that area, which will be the requirement of the new policy for the same street at the same pavement age. Now, just to walk you through the timeline, on September 10th, 2024, we introduced this draft policy at the city's Development Advisory Forum and started collecting stakeholder feedback. We have addressed the stakeholder comments in our implementation plan. So here we are tonight discussing this proposed policy for your feedback, November 4th. We'll be coming back to you on November 18th for formal adoption of the policy. And our effective date for the implementation of this policy is January 1st, 2025. With that, Brian and I are here to answer any questions and accept any feedback that you might have for us.
Okay, thank you. First up, Councilmember Stipp.
So, Brian, thanks for working on this. I know that this has been kind of problematic for us. I'm curious about the stakeholder discussions. The development community in its totality is really starting to put pressure on the legislature, which then is going to apply to us, on the cost of development, doing business, et cetera. Most of the street cuts are directly connected to a development of some sort, which is only going to drive the cost of development up. For example, just for everyone else's kind of point of view, the national home builders are using figures of it costs $97,000 per lot to as a result of local regulations to build a home. And that's what they're pinning the cost of the housing affordability on. Now, I think we all know that there's a lot of other factors besides what the city does that affect housing affordability, and there are a lot of other things that are not regulatory in nature. Now, having said all of that, a 25-foot cut on, or a repair on either side of a 1-foot trench, that's 50 feet of pavement. That is going to be significantly expensive. So how did those development stakeholder meetings go? How do we compare to the rest of the, if we're in line with everybody else, then my comments are kind of moot, but I'm concerned about how does that affect kind of the cost of doing business here in the city.
Mayor, Council Member Stipp, thank you so much for sharing all these details. And going to your question about the development stakeholder feedback. So we met with the forum on September 10th, and a lot of people attended in person, a lot of representatives from utilities, developers, and our city departments, water services, there are our customers too. And after that, we opened the period for about a month. And since these policies have been in place at Chandler and Phoenix for the last 7 years, most of the utilities and developers, everybody is familiar with this concept. So this is not a new thing to them. and they knew it was just a matter of time before Goodyear and other cities will start adopting similar policies. And in fact, a lot of West Valley cities are right now, they've told us they're waiting on Goodyear to take the lead, as we often do. And they are saying that whatever you adopt, we will be doing something similar. And during the stakeholder comment process, actually, we received only one formal comment, and that was from our own city department, Water Services, where, again, the requirement will cost some more money, but all the entities realize that this is really for the preservation of our pavement, and this asset has to be preserved as a city asset. So we did not receive any negative comment at all. And as to your point about the costs, compared to the regulation requirements compared to other cities, we did see that in Phoenix's requirement, there was one small requirement that was a little bit too excessive. So Brian Harville and his team, they looked at it and evaluated very technically and very objectively to make sure that our requirement will not be as excessive, but still will protect our pavement in the best possible way that we want going in the future. So
I'm going to say that's good to hear. However, I think we should be worried that, in this case, silence is not golden. And that they're just going to wait and then deal with it at the legislative level, which is probably my, and I hope everyone else's worst nightmare, that we get this regulated upon us. I don't disagree. I'm a huge advocate of maintaining the asset and taking care of all of that, but just, I think for everyone else's benefit, please know that impact fees are right now currently getting lined up in the crosshairs in addition to some of these other costs. So while this is great for today, I think we have to be cautious about how quickly can we turn this around and shrink 25 feet to 15 feet, or how quickly can we do that from a procedural perspective, that the staff has to be nimble enough to look at that and be considering it. But as we say, it is what it is today. But thank you so much for the work. I think this is so important. We have got, we're in that different situation where we are growing very quickly. So Chandler's not doing very many road cuts, so no one's gonna complain about what's happening in Chandler. But when Goodyear starts to do it, and then Buckeye starts to do it, and then Peoria starts to do it, who are going through excessive amounts of growth, then we're gonna start, again, putting on a T-shirt that has a bullseye on it. So I think we've gotta be careful of how that looks. But it doesn't change my support of the program, so thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I would say tonight's overarching theme is right-of-way work and including the next agenda item, but it's really timely and really important. I think that this pavement cut policy is critical. I think about on McDowell, we've had road work that was opened and closed, opened and closed, opened and closed. And that's a well-traveled road. Protecting the integrity of our investment is so critical. And I know when you come back around every year with the budget on resealing streets and things like that, it doesn't go as far. And it's really important that we keep up with our roads, because that is something that Goodyear residents appreciate, Goodyear businesses. So I think it's always been our strong suit that we've engaged stakeholders in this. And you're right, they might have other feelings, and I think acknowledging that there may be unintended consequences to what we do, but I think that how do you find the balance between what the developers pay and versus what the taxpayers pay? And infrastructure is so expensive, but very excited about this. I think we're on the right track. So thank you both very much.
Councilmember Loretano.
Thank you very much. I think the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Stitt both made very good, valid comments. And as to the legislature, maybe they shouldn't have taken our $5 million last. Did I say that for the rental tax?
I think it's closer to $6.
$6 million, and then maybe we'd have some more money to work with to fix our streets for our citizens. But I thank you guys, that's not your fault. I think it's a good policy. I think we do want to make sure that we're consistent with other cities. I know I hear a lot from, citizens who complain about the streets being ripped up like again and again and again, and they get bumpier on their cars. I do have a question. After we repair it, what I've noticed in like an area I can use, for example, is Bullard Road that was ripped up a lot. The lane markings are gone. My car likes to drive itself in the lane markings. All I've been doing is like, it's confused as it's going back and forth. Who does it, or what is our policy to make sure they get restriped in a timely manner? Is it us? Is it them? How does that work?
Mayor, Councilor Millartano, great question. And in our proposed policy, we have addressed that. I'll just read a couple of sentences to you, then also talk a little extra. So temporary striping will be applied to the surface within 24 hours of the overlay or seal. And then thermoplastic, the higher quality, striping shall be applied 30 days thereafter. In the interim between striping, no lane line signs shall be visibly installed. And all of this work will be reviewed and permitted through our Development Services Department's Civil Engineering Inspections team. So they will make sure that the enforcement is appropriate per the policy. And since they are already managing and inspecting the rest of the work, this will be just a small, another item added onto their checklist.
No, and I appreciate, does that include those little like glow-in-the-dark things that go on the lanes, little bumps? Okay, that would be part of it as well. So that all be restored. When we're saying restored to original, that's all going to be there.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Gillis.
No, correct.
I agree. You just educated. That was a great presentation because you're really educating us on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I think it's imperative because of this growing city and how fast it's growing that I agree with the Vice Mayor, that we keep up with our streets, whether it's widening them, whether it's doing what you're doing, whether it's whatever we've got to do to keep up with them so that our citizens, we don't want them, they're already upset with us for all this anyway, but we don't want them any more upset, So I really appreciate the presentation and everything you're doing, and I support it wholeheartedly. And Samit, I have to tell you something.
Yes, ma'am.
Love that tie.
Oh, with all the cuts and all the right-of-way restrictions. Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton.
No, I agree. I think it's a good program, so we definitely need to make sure we have good, sound streets and then make sure that we get them fixed in a timely manner. So, no, thank you for working on this. Looking forward to the end result of this program as it comes to fruition and as it get implemented in the future. So, thank you.
Thanks. There's not too much more to add except to say that, unfortunately, there will be times when we'll get pushed back out to state legislature, but it's important for us to protect our asset because if it's not done right, and whether it's 15 or 10 or whatever the case may be, all this is going to do is more damage in the long term. It'll be up to us to try to convince those that think they know better that we are doing this for the citizens and for saving money overall, long term. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we got, I think, Katie? Right-of-way management. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Katie Wilkin, Development Services Director. I'm here to talk to you about traffic control policies and fees, a topic that has been of great frustration to City Council and our community, and has certainly taken a lot more of my time in my first months as director than I would have ever predicted. One of those projects is on the screen before you. I won't name the name of the project, but McDowell Road, which was under construction for so long, I was able to get this picture off the county assessor's website that it was captured through the aerial photos. So first, I want to talk for a minute about what traffic control permits are. We do require a permit for any construction that takes place in our city right-of-way, and that does primarily include roadway construction or utility construction, but can also include other types of construction or restrictions. More than half of the traffic control permits are from private development projects. Another third are from our utility companies, such as our private water and wastewater utilities, but also gas, power, and the telecommunications companies. A pretty small percentage of our overall traffic control permits are city CIP projects. And then there are some traffic control permits for certain special events that need roadway closures or otherwise are generating a lot of traffic. As was mentioned, we are the 9th fastest growing community, and so our traffic control permits have been steadily increasing. They've increased in volume 180% since 2020, and if you look at the year-to-year data, you can see that steadily increasing. And you might ask me, how have we been able to keep up with this work? And I will say there's 2 words, Robert Cunningham. We have a single individual who was hired in 2020, so that's the job he thought he was getting, and he has somehow been able to keep up with all this, and I just want to give him a shout out because he's been doing an amazing job handling this traffic control permit program. Of course, before we look at fees, we always look at our policies and processes to see where we can make improvements before we start looking at our fees. And so one thing we've already done this year is implement moratoriums. So for certain events throughout the year, such as spring training, the NASCAR events, which although not in Goodyear, impact Goodyear roadways, planned freeway closures, and the holiday shopping season, we did implement a moratorium earlier this year. So we already went through it with our spring training and the NASCAR event that already happened earlier this year, and it went really well. It was proactive communication to the development community. We've also been communicating with them lately, reminding them that we're doing it this holiday shopping season. And again, it is working really well because, as you know, we have a major project going on right here, GSQ, and so we're already having better communication and coordination on how we're going to make sure there's very minimal impacts, if at all, to our community around this area that's so important to our business community during the holiday shopping season. The other improvement we've made, and I think this is something really important, and it kind of touches on what Councilmember Stipp was just talking about with the development review process. And we've also been looking at how to improve our development phasing. And as I said, over half of these traffic control permits are from the private development projects. And something that's important to know is most private development has 2 pieces. The on-site, which is the building they're building, the residential neighborhood, and then there's off-sites, which is the building of all the infrastructure, roadways, utilities to serve that development or adjacent to that development. And this can be very challenging to the private development projects because it's not just city approvals that are required. They're often crossing easements such as an irrigation district easement or an electrical utility easement. They often need approvals. If they're building a water line in the Liberty area, they need approvals from Liberty. They need approvals from the county. They might be crossing ADOT territory that they need approvals. So there are a lot of moving pieces. And what often happens is the city is done with our review. So when we're talking about the state looking at our timeframes, we're often done and they're literally waiting for these outside agency approvals. And so of course, to help them along, in the past, we've often allowed them to start their on-site construction work so they can get going. But that has caused some problems with some of these major projects where the off-site and the on-site work gets out of whack. So what we're doing is, one, just better coordination on these projects. And it's all the way from the very beginning when you have a pre-application meeting with these projects, making sure they understand how much these outside agencies impact their development timeline. So they need to start talking to them very, very early in the process, all the way to as we're doing this the construction work is going on, making sure that it's coordinated. So there's a lot to that, but I think it's an important piece of it. Because again, some of this is out of the city's hands. The other thing we did is in September, we held a rapid improvement event, and we were looking at the fact basically that there's one person doing all this work. And a couple of things we did at that is we took some of the pre-screened work off of his hands. One of the major pieces of that is checking for the appropriate insurance. And our friends in the Human Resources Department is taking some of that work off of our hands. So I want to give them a shout out. And this is also really important because it gives our reviewers more time to be out in the field, making sure these traffic controls are set up safely and appropriately, rather than doing some of the paperwork inside the building. So finally, after we did those improvements, now it's time to look at our current fee structure. And when we look at our current fee structure, Basically, we have a very basic fee structure. It's pretty much $75 per day, except for full arterial closures. There's no distinction between the number of lanes, how long meaning distance the closure is for, or the type of roadway the closure is for, which means there's no incentives to the development community to get in and out of our right-of-way quickly. And there are some projects that maybe they only need one lane closure, but when the fees are just $75, well, I might as well go ahead and close 2 lanes, and it's a little easier for me to spread out my construction equipment. The other item is there are no fines or sanctions, which I know, again, has specifically been a point of frustration for our city council. That project I showed you at the beginning, I know there was a lot of questions from you on what can we do to incentivize them to move this quickly, and you kept hearing nothing, and our community kept hearing nothing. I just saw some of the emails earlier about another construction project, and what can we do right now? Financially, not a whole lot to incentivize these projects to get going. So I want to say thank you to council for bringing this and authorizing staff to look into this issue more so we can get some better tools in our toolbox so we can deal with these issues. So of course, the first thing we did was look at our peer cities. And normally I would have some kind of great chart to distill this information for you, but it's very complex. So I don't have a nice, easy chart. However, I can say that there are some trends, and especially when you look at Phoenix, Glendale, and Chandler, there is a policy and a model that those cities are using, which our fee structure is based on. And for this type of work, it's really helpful when the large city like Phoenix is doing it in a certain way. And if we're going to align with Phoenix, then a lot of the utility companies do that work. The private developers do work in those same areas. And so they're not surprised or upset by these kinds of changes. So first, the basic structure of what we're proposing is that we will have different fees for the type of street. So more major roadways will cost more to do right-of-way work in than others. The number of lanes, so now we're going to charge per lane. Also the length of closure, meaning the distance. All of our fees are set by day, so the time of closure is also considered. And then we also have different fees if you're closing during peak hours versus non-peak hours, again, to incentivize people to work in the right-of-way during non-peak hours. So next part of the fees is the sanctions. And again, that same project that we've been talking about this whole time, this is a screenshot. There was some kind of compaction issue. And so even when they were done, they weren't done. And I know this is especially frustrating for our community because they're driving by. This isn't something you can necessarily see with the naked eye. And they're thinking, why can't I drive on this roadway that's been completed? What's going on? This is really frustrating. And it's because we had a failure that actually had to go in and get fixed. Oops. So we do have sanctions, of course, for life safety issues, for working in an unapproved schedule, and then if there's continued violations. And again, there are several sanctions that we've proposed. I won't go through all of them, but just to highlight a few. You know, if you're working without a permit, it can be $1,000 per day. If you're working outside an already approved schedule, $500 per day. Unauthorized barricades, $500 per day. And then those other sanctions, if you fail to correct them, we can add an additional $1,000 per day. And again, I want to point out, this isn't aligned with other communities. And of course, our hope is we never have to use these. We don't want to have to use these, but they're there for those extreme situations. For implementation, we do anticipate there will be additional revenue, which is needed to run the program itself. Also from that rapid improvement event, I do also want to highlight a couple things I didn't talk about today because we are still working on how can we create better communication to our community of when road closures are going to happen, how long they're going, who do I contact when I have questions or see some kind of unsafe situation. So we aren't leaving it with let's change our fee schedule and then we're done with the traffic control permit program. We are looking at how to increase those communications and get better information to our community. Primarily through our road restrictions map, We do have a road restrictions map on our website, but we do need to do some work to make sure that there is very timely and accurate information. Because again, as some of these projects work outside of their unauthorized schedule, then the information on the website isn't always up to date. So we are continuing to work on that. And again, that job's not done. So in summary, we have attached a proposed fee schedule to this ordinance that follows the policies I outlined. It is aligned with our peer cities. We did do outreach. We presented it to the Development Advisory Forum as well and sent it out to our whole list and have not received any objections to the proposed fees. And again, what we're trying to do is an incentive-based approach to incentivize people to get in and out quickly of our right-of-way, finish their work quickly, and then when necessary, there are sanctions there. The next steps, if council is okay with us moving forward, is we will bring this back to you for council action. We do need to look at some of our noticing, and we may need to be adding some more information to it, so we may not be coming on November 18th. And then once council adopts it, we will do full communication and outreach to all impacted stakeholders of the changes in fees, and we're shooting for effective early 2025. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback.
Before I start the opening just for clarification, do you estimate, say, for example, on McDowell, it was going to take 30 days? I'm just throwing a number out there. And they drag on and it takes 60 days. Do you have anything in your proposal where there's a penalty? I know you want to incentivize someone to get in and get out, but is that so much per day, or is there a penalty for not completing the assignment when what the time is expected? Do you have anything like that in there?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, if they work outside the approved schedule without coming to us, there's a penalty. They need to give us at least 5 days' notice. So they would need to come to us and tell us, hey, we're going to have to extend the schedule. And when they're extending a schedule like that, I think we'd want to sit down and have a longer discussion about what's going on and how to move the project along quickly. But if they keep going, then yes, we have a penalty.
You have a penalty? Okay, thank you. Let's see, first up, Councilmember Gillis.
Katie, I want to give you a huge compliment because I was so excited when you went into this job. And I think you are doing an amazing, amazing job. Amazing. And this presentation is amazing. It really kind of gives us an idea of what's going on, and you've given us everything that we asked for. And so thank you for that. And I support it wholeheartedly because I'm sick and tired of things taking too long. You know that. I'm not patient. So anyway, thank you very much. And I just am so happy with what you're doing.
Let's see, Councilmember, you're up, Wally.
Okay, thanks, Katie. The mayor sort of touched on my question because I think I've been the most vocal about this for months and months and months. And every time I get on Nextdoor and we're getting beat to death, I send it to my favorite city manager and say, Wynette, look what they're talking about today. Camelback, Indian School, McDowell, Bullard, you name it, they're all over it. But what I'm really concerned with, I know we can't go back in time because the Microsoft roadway is such heartburn to me because it's been years and that road's not done yet. Years, and there's no excuse for that. So I want to make sure that when anyone comes and they ask for these permits, they're given a time frame or they give you the time frame. And if they don't do the time frame, we really hit them with the sanction. We don't have them come in and sit down and talk to us and tell us what's going on. And yeah, we'll give you another 60 days or another 120 days because they could do that indefinitely. I just want to be sure that they know we're depending on them to finish that project in a timely manner because it is inconveniencing our residents. There's no one that doesn't dig in this city that doesn't inconvenience a resident somewhere because they're ripping up our streets. And when we have 6 streets all under construction at the same time, it's very difficult to get through our city. So for the barricade that's barricaded and it's the wrong barricade, what if he puts 10 barricades up? Is it $500 per barricade? And if it's not, it should be. Not just $500 for one barricade. Because he may barricade the street, he may barricade the corner. I think you need to kind of put some teeth in that maybe.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. I actually am not sure of that answer, so
That's
I
okay.
need to
You
look
can
at the
look
fees
into
and
it.
get back to you.
Yeah, you can just look into it, that's fine. But I just appreciate you doing this. This is, I would have never thought we would have had to have come to this. As long as I've been on council, we've never really had to have this discussion. But then we've never really had any development take advantage of our city the way we have had happen to us in the last 4 or 5 years. And I just don't want it to continue to happen. So thank you, Katie, very much.
Sherry. Nope, there you go. You're on.
Pushed the wrong button. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. I know this became an issue really about last year, about this time, during the holiday season, when it was like the endless McDowell Road, and we couldn't get cars there, and we were concerned about getting public safety there. So you and your team have been working very hard on this, so thank you very much. This is a good resolution for this. I know that you said out of hours, not peak hours would be, is it less for not peak hours? Is the permit less if they want to do it at night, like they're doing the Estrella Bridge or something?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that because I think that's very important. I think we've had probably, unless we've got a whole bunch of complaints, I think that's probably been one of the smoothest projects we've had that's been going, when people are sleeping. So the more we can incentivize that type of work to keep it out of the rush hour, I think is wonderful. So thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Kano.
Katie, this was an exceptional presentation, and I think we can all say that we've been heard. This has been an ongoing issue. You've heard a lot from us. You've heard a lot from the residents, and it kind of felt like, well, that's just the way it is. But you've prioritized the time and effort to put this together. This is true leadership. Thankful to your team and the management support that you've had to do this. I felt like tonight we're really leaping into the future with all the right-of-way, with the talking about EPCOR and Liberty and the pavements and this. And so this is very exciting. And so thank you for leading us forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton.
Yeah, not much more else to say. Yeah, definitely a great program. Thank you for bringing it forward, working hard on it. Looking forward to the fruition of this when it comes back to council for a vote. So thank you.
Great discussion, not much more to add, except thank you for all your efforts. And again, anything we can do to speed this process up and to just piggyback on what Councilmember Loretano was saying. I really like what they're doing on the Estrella Parkway because they're working at night. Traffic's moving through there. It's not backing up as a result of them working at night. So that's a good example of when they're working right and you've got the incentives in there, how this all can work. So thank you. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, with that, that's the third and the last one of our Pippi. So with that, thumbs up. Meeting over.